up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of the Sharp Reality. You can find all episodes of TSR on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes, as well as our website, thesharpreality.com. Follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp, and be sure to bookmark the Amazon link in our sidebar if you'd like to support the show at no cost to you. Starting next week, I will be sending out weekly newsletters. I'll start my weekly newsletter. Just sign up in the sidebar, and you will receive weekly updates on past and future episodes, upcoming appearances, special guests, and anything else related to the Sharp Reality podcast. As I've stated earlier this week, this will also make sure that you guys always have access to the Sharp Reality in the event that any of my content gets taken down by YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes. I'll state again, guys, red pill content is unpopular. People are afraid of the truth. They reject it, and they do anything they can to make sure that it stays off the internet. We all know this. And a lot of the platforms you find this stuff on are either run by social justice warriors or are highly influenced by them. So by signing up for my weekly newsletter, you can stay in the know in terms of where to find my content when and if the proverbial hammer finds its way to me. And again, don't worry, guys. We will never share or sell your information to anyone for any reason. And my newsletter will be sent out just once a week. The only exception being, of course, is if my content gets taken down on any of my platforms. At which point I'll just let you guys know, hey, my content got taken down. Here is where you can find it, or I've started another channel, etc., etc. We're not going to blow up your inbox 3, 4, 5 times a week. Today's episode is going to be all about the mailbag. I get a lot of emails from people around the world, men and women alike. And I usually just read, maybe 2 or 3 per episode, 3, maybe 4 at the very most. But today what I've done is I've compiled a list of, I've compiled quite an extensive list of some of these questions. Some questions I've responded to via email. I'm not really one to comment on YouTube. I just don't do that. But for now, I'll just go ahead and just sort of get caught up with the mailbag as this goes. So let's go ahead and get started here. Raheem Gaines writes in about my episode on the ESPN Purge. He says, quote, "Notice how black women survived the purge at ESPN. They champion feminism more than anyone." Yeah, Raheem, I've been through that list, and I didn't see any black women on it either. And if there were, you can bet your ass that one of them will sue for wrongful termination. Mark Keller writes in regarding testosterone replacement therapy. He says, quote, "My doctor won't let me do TRT. Says my levels are normal for my age." He says, "I said maybe so, but what if my normal was higher than others' normal?" He, the doctor, had no answer to that. He continues, he says, "It makes me want to change doctors and go to a specialist." A lot of guys go through this. They go to a doctor, and their doctor, for whatever reason, won't put them on TRT. Mark, go to donovansharp.com or thesharpreality.com, and on the far right, click on the contact tab and shoot me an email with a few more particulars like your age, your weight, your height, etc. Unless you have super low testosterone, I personally would not recommend any man going on TRT if they're under the age of 30. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, but that's my opinion. So drop me a line, and I'll send you some links and some resources based on the information that you give me. Charles Merchant writes in, "Ha ha ha, I get way too many sloppy fat women flirting with me. Maybe I should start shutting them down too." He's talking about the comment that I made about fat women who approach men. Listen, Charles, blow these fat bitches out, man. Fat bitches have no right to flirt with dudes out of their league, and you shouldn't feel an ounce of guilt about it. I have blown plenty of fat bitches out. I've done it plenty of times, and it always brightens up my day. My guess is that it'll probably do the same for you. The O.J. Simpson episode, I got plenty of comments and questions about that one. This was episode 49, how the life and times of O.J. Simpson confirms Red Pill Truth. Chris Jackson writes in, bro, good one. Duke Man writes in, that was a great podcast, laser sharp analysis on one of the most important events of the 90s. Heathen Deluxe says, one of your best so far. Aaron Sanders simply said, deleted. Yeah, good riddance, Aaron. Go listen to all the other podcasts that talk about race relations but are afraid to tell the truth. TSR ain't for you, bruh. See you later. ETF 42 writes in on episode 54, How to Finish Grooming Your Main Chick. He writes in, I completely agree with everything here, but I believe it is more trouble and work than it's worth. I would not get any enjoyment out of this. It's basically managing a child. He continues, women used to be raised and groomed by their mothers and society to do these things on their own. Today's environment, not so much. It's crazy how things have swung in just the last 10 years. I can't see them getting any better over the next decade. The pendulum is still swinging away, and it will be a long time before it swings back. Yeah, ETF, I can't argue with that. Look, man, the things necessary to keep a woman in line these days is a lot more trouble than it's worth. There's no question about it. But because I like pussy, because of my testicles that produce testosterone in my body, I'd sooner choose the lesser two evils. Yes, the fact is this: keeping a woman in line is a hell of a lot easier than approaching women running game at bars, clubs, wherever else. Game is fucking hard, guys. Yeah, I've slept with a lot of women, but it's fucking hard, man. It really, really is. It is not easy to sleep with attractive women. So both are difficult and extremely taxing. But grooming a woman and keeping her in line is less difficult than going out and running game on a bunch of chicks. I can't say I blame you. Man. I'm right there with you. Keishu Burner writes in about episode, I forget which episode this was, but it was the one that was entitled 4 Techniques Women Use to Set Up Cheating. He says, very accurate list of horror moves. Believe what you know, not what you're told. One of the things I always make sure I keep in the front of my mind is to believe my eyes, not my ears. A woman can say anything, all right? One of the standard rules of game that we teach here in the manosphere is never ever believe what a woman says, only believe what she does. And to be quite frank, a lot of times I have a hard time believing my eyes. I mean, women are getting so good at lying and being deceptive and misleading that a lot of times you can't really believe what you see either. So good comment there. Got a lot of feedback about let me see here. I got a lot of feedback about my ESPN, about my comments on ESPN. I did a live I did a live podcast this past Thursday about the reasons ESPN had laid off 100 employees, many of them or lifelong ESPN employees, and then yesterday. Or not yesterday, this past Saturday, I did another one about Joe Mixon and the fact that ESPN definitely hates the fact that Joe Mixon got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. So, with that as our backdrop, Antonius Charles writes in, ESPN has sold its soul and alienated most of their loyal viewers. I find your points very valid. I stopped watching them a long time ago. Ruminant Melanoid says, you can do whatever you want, but you cannot pick your consequences. Let it burn. Mr. Shane Vicious writes in, Brittany Griner, they don't seem to mention her for beating a bitch's ass. And then looks like Dark Keith Lofton replied, or Hope Solo. ESPN definitely makes a much bigger deal out of domestic violence when it's the man who is the accused. But when it comes to Brittany Griner or Hope Solo, yeah, they'll mention it because it's newsworthy, but they don't pursue it like they would with a Joe Mixon or a Ray Rice or continue with the public flogging or the character assassination that they normally do. So definitely good comments there. Ricky writes in, I stopped watching ESPN when Smith, meaning Stephen A. Smith, got suspended for telling females not to hit men, and he came back apologizing and crying like a little bitch. He continues, I was sick of it before. before then, but that was the tipping point. Stopped watching the NFL as well. All of these men dying of cancer, but it's all about the females, plus it's turning into flag football. Yeah, Ricky, I remember that. Stephen A. Smith was talking about the Ray Rice elevator video, and he said, quote, "Let's make sure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions." He went on to say, if we come after somebody has put their hands on you, it doesn't negate the fact that they already put their hands on you. So he was basically, what he was telling women was, look, the reason why you get your ass beat is because you're putting your hands on men. Men aren't just walking up to women and slugging them on camera. Ray Rice, I mean, listen, Janae Rice wasn't just standing in the elevator and Ray Rice decided just to cold cock her out of nowhere. She hit him several times before he knocked her ass out. Amelia Molitor hit Joe Mixon before he broke 4 bones in her face. Who is that? The other girl. I don't even know what her name is. She hit DeAndre Johnson before he hit her. As a matter of fact, if you go back and watch the video, you can see that she tried to hit him with... This is DeAndre Johnson now. So if you Google or YouTube DeAndre Johnson, you'll see the video. He tries to get in at the bar. The girl turns around and starts yelling at him. And he starts yelling at her back. I guess he starts talking to her. Well, she tries to hit him, but he catches her hand. And it appears that he's telling her, hey, bitch, don't hit me. And she wrenches one hand loose, hits him, and he hit her. So, listen, Stephen A. Smith was right on the mark, but unfortunately for him, he works for the feminist machine, that is ESPN. They suspended him. And listen, I can't blame Stephen A. Smith for coming back and apologizing, man. Like, dude, that was his paycheck. You can't, and a lot of us can all sit here and say, well, if I were Stephen A. Smith, I'd have told them to go fuck themselves. No, you wouldn't have. Look, man, Stephen A. Smith makes 7 figures with ESPN. If they say, hey, look, you're going to retract these statements, if I'm Stephen A. Smith, I would do the right thing, man. Like, this is what he does for a living. This is how he puts food on the table. This is how he lives the life he lives. So if he's got to take an L, if he has to take a loss on camera, then so be it. I can't blame a man for doing that. But yeah, going back to that, he was suspended for a week for that particular comment. And I remember Michelle Beadle, who's the host of Sports Nation, and is also the poster child for the 1,000-cock stare. She tweeted out, "I'll never feel clean again," and she tweeted out something else. "I'm now aware that I can provoke my own beating." And I'm thinking to myself, she's just now figuring that out? You mean to tell me that Michelle Beadle was under the impression that there was nothing she could do to provoke a man to kick her ass? And listen, I laugh and I chuckle, but women actually think this way now, guys, and this is because of ESPN. They quite literally believe that it is wrong for a man to put his hands on a woman regardless of what she does to him. ESPN's jumped the shark, guys, and it'll get to a point where I only watch or listen in order to report back to you guys to let you know how bad it's gotten out there. And to be quite frank, I've already started consuming much more Fox Sports 1 content these days, because clearly they're on the other side, or at least they tend not to delve into these things. 5 Shades of Red, Mr. Shane Vicious. That was one of the latest episodes. Mr. Shane Vicious writes in, male feminist, is that PC term for a bitch-ass nigga? Yep, sure is. ETF42 again writes in on 5 Shades of Red. He says, you made a comment that got me intrigued. I would love to hear a show about why men, even when faced with all the facts, take the red pill and spit it out. My list would include cognitive dissonance, environmental and societal pressures, inability to change or deprogram, lack of desire or willpower, financial implications for married men, and of course fear. Some of these are obviously related. Yes, sir. I will absolutely do a podcast on why men reject the red pill within the next couple of weeks or so. That's a very good show idea. And look, if you guys have show ideas or requests, send them in, and if there's enough meat on the bone, I'll definitely do a podcast for it, or a podcast on it. Getting back to the Joe Mixon, let's see here. Yeah, getting back to Joe Mixon, Joe Mixon, of course, is now the Cincinnati Bengals running back. Joe Mixon, he was drafted in the second round, which is much higher than most predicted that he would go. And of course, ESPN lost their minds. I was actually watching the draft on 2 different networks. I was watching it on the NFL network and on ESPN. As soon as Mixon was drafted, ESPN immediately showed the video of him knocking out Amelia Molitor, but the NFL network had not. I know that Fox Sports was also doing they were also covering the NFL draft. But I don't have 3 televisions, so I wasn't able to watch that telecast, but my guess is that they probably didn't. So it's clear that ESPN is going to try to bury any man who puts his hands on a woman regardless of whether or not she hit him first. Anyway, regarding Joe Mixon, Nick D writes in, the moral of the story is to keep your hands to yourself. We all should have learned this in elementary school. ESPN needs to stop trying to justify that it's only for females to attack males with no accountability. Violence was the wrong solution for both. I disagree, Nick. Violence was the right solution for both. Joe Mixon got drafted, and Amelia Molitor will never put her hands on another man again. Mr. Big Play at 9 writes in, Nick D, finally somebody says it. She attacked him first. Females want to be treated equal. Well, she got real equality. She slapped and punched him, then she got punched back. If anything, it was self-defense on his behalf. I agree with that. John Mathis says, feeling sorry for the guy, talking about Joe Mixon. He continues, quit asking the same questions to the lad. They are trying their damnedest to make sure he doesn't enjoy this experience. I understand your concern, John, but trust me, Mixon will be fine. He's a big boy, and he's a great running back. He'll get past this. And this is something that'll probably stay with him, but, I mean, the only time he really has to deal with this is during press conferences, which make up a very small percentage of his everyday existence. So, barring any serious injury or lack of discipline, he'll have a long career and make millions in the NFL. One last email. I got an email from, let's see here. I got an email, looks like from Joe Sue writes in. He says, so I've been seeing this new girl for about, actually, you know what? I'm not going to get into that one. That one is, well, no, you know what? I'll go ahead and do this. So he says, so I've been seeing this new girl for about 5 months. She's 24, not necessarily super hot, probably a 4 or 5, lives with her mom, 3 brothers. Her dad's an alcoholic and hardly ever around because I've got one main issue with this chick. She still talks to her ex. The second issue is that she has more guy friends and girlfriends more than I'm comfortable with. As far as her ex, he continues, as far as her ex is concerned, I've confronted her about messaging this dude numerous times before. All 3 of us work together in the same company, but just different departments. Her justification is that he is still a work colleague, which is bullshit to me, and that she talks about fitness routines with him. She even gives me her phone to show me what they're talking about. The company has a gym that we all work out together. My gut tells me she just wants to keep in the picture just in case things don't work out for us. My friend, you are spot on. I talked about this in my last podcast episode, where women, and as a matter of fact, your girlfriend checks off 2 of those boxes. Women look and find your replacements at work and at the gym. She's got a guy at work who also happens to work out at the gym. Look, bruh, there's no reason for her to be texting her ex. She's texting him because she either wants to fuck him, is fucking him, or knows that she is going to fuck him, or she wants him back. Either way, your instincts are right on point. So the solution here is simple, and you're just going to have to listen. You are going to have to do the difficult thing here. You need to let her know. Hey, look, you either stop texting your ex or we're fucking done. All right? If you want to go fuck him, if you want to flirt with him, do that on your time. You can do whatever you want. But if you're fucking him, if you're going to be texting him, if you're going to be flirting with him, doing whatever, then I'm out of the picture. And just because a woman hands you her phone to let you see all the messages, come on, man. If a woman voluntarily gives you her phone, all this means is that she's erased messages so that you don't really see what's going on. Listen, look, man, you already know what's going on. You didn't need me to tell you all this stuff. What you did need me to tell you was that you need to drop this bitch, because any woman who stays in touch with her ex is a woman that you don't need to be in a serious relationship with. That's just all there is to it. The last email that I have here is from the Beta. They say, quote, "It's not all women that damage men. It's simply that you always pick the women who have extreme problems. Your mother cheated on your father compulsively, hence you're damaged, and you gravitate towards unfaithful women, single mothers, etc. Also, you're obsessed by pussy, which is why you can't last long enough without it to find a gym." Oh my god. Yeah, listen, you're right about the fact that my mother did cheat on my father compulsively, and yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I am damaged by that. Any man would be. So kudos to you for pointing out the obvious. I do gravitate towards unfaithful women and single mothers because they're easy pussy. That's it. I'm not wifing these bitches up. I'm not making these bitches my girlfriends. A nice tray there. And look, man, men want to fuck women. That doesn't mean we're obsessed by pussy. You call it the reason you call it an obsession is because you can't get pussy. And I've talked about this before. The lowest rung of MGTOW, the fat losers who have neck beards, live in their mom's basements, they play video games all day. Those guys are always quick to shame men for liking having sex with women, for going after women, and they say, "Oh, you guys are beholden to the pussy and you're a slave to the pussy." The reason you characterize this, the beta, is because you can't get laid. So to make yourself feel better, you try to make everybody think that you could get the pussy if you wanted to, but you choose not to because you don't want to be obsessed by the pussy. Dude, you're not fooling anybody here. So wanting to shame me for wanting to fuck women, all that tells me is that you're either a woman or a faggot. So listen, you were right about everything else, but you wanted a defensive response. I'm not going to defend everything. Everything you said was true on some level. So nice try on the troll job. Better luck next time. That does it for this episode of TSR. Almost said TRT. That does it for this episode of TSR, The Sharp Reality. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. Bookmark the Amazon link on our homepage to support the show. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter to stay in touch with The Sharp Reality.